Hi, everyone. Welcome to the formerly Kickpoint Playbook webinar, the artist formerly known as Kickpoint Playbook. We are mid-transition of our brand analytics playbook, so that is happening. I'm Dana DiTomaso, founder of Analytics Playbook and president of Kickpoint, a Canada-based digital marketing agency. And today I am joined by fellow Canadian and one of the top Google Ads experts out there, Jyll Saskin. She has a new book out. Books are so popular right now. My last guest, Talia Wolf, also had a book. Her book is called Inside Google Ads. It is great. You should definitely check it out if you do anything in Google Ads. And today she will be walking us through what we need to know in Google Ads targeting. And I'm going to be honest with you, my experience hands-on with Google Ads ended about 10 years ago, if not longer. Now I only go in there to work with conversions. So I personally, as someone who does talk to clients on the regular, am very interested to hear about all these changes so that I can see what's actually going on in Google Ads. Please make sure to ask questions in the chat to get things started. Drop us a note and let us know where you're joining us from today. And we will definitely get to questions midway through and also at the end. And if you have to drop out early, fear not. We will be emailing everyone who registered on the Analytics Playbook LinkedIn event a recording of today's session. So if you're watching us on YouTube or on Jill's LinkedIn or Jill's YouTube, definitely check out the Analytics Playbook page on LinkedIn. Make sure to click register there. I will get your email address. I will send you an email of the replay afterwards as well. Or of course, just message me on LinkedIn if you don't see it show up and I will make sure to help you out. All right, and now let's get this rolling. Hey, Jyll.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
All right, let's get your presentation added up. And yeah, let her rip. I will be here but muted, and I might jump in if I have some fun, entertaining observations, but this is your show, so let her go.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here today. This is Google Ads Targeting, What You Need to Know in 2025. I've designed this so that if you are someone who, like Dana, maybe is sort of familiar with Google Ads but doesn't really use it every day, you are going to learn a ton. And also, if you're someone like me who is inside Google Ads every single day and it's your career, you're still going to pick up some new tips and tricks today. I'm Jyll Saskin. I use the pronoun she and her, and I'm a Google Ads coach. So first things first, before we can talk about Google Ads targeting, like how do we target ads? And feel free to type in the chat if you're watching this with us live right now on YouTube or LinkedIn. How do you target your ads today? Do you use keywords? Do you use AI-powered campaigns like PMax? Do you use audiences? Are you using features like DSA? There are tons of different ways to target ads in Google Ads. So many more today than we had even 5 years ago, definitely more than we had 10 years ago. So feel free to go ahead and tell me in the chat, how are you targeting your ads today? What are some of the targeting methods you're currently using?
I love how you listed all these acronyms, and I'm like, I don't even know what, like, I'm aware of these, but there's a lot of acronyms. I feel like there's a lot of acronyms in SEO. I think PPC definitely wins.
We all love our acronyms. It makes us feel in the know, right? I'm even seeing in the chat an acronym. Chris says KWs, which is keywords. DSA is our dynamic search ads. Stephanie says that they use audiences, right? There's lots of different ways to do it. And so this Venn diagram, I love me a good Venn diagram. I've got quite a few of them in my book. Regardless of what type of strategy you're using, ad targeting really comes down to this. Out there is some universe of people who are looking for what you offer. And keywords are typically how we find them. People are searching for something, we have that thing, we show them an ad. But there's this whole other world out there of people who are in your target audience and may just not be actively searching right now. So for example, let's say that you sell strollers. On the left-hand side, people looking for your offer, what's the best stroller, strollers, etc. But on the right-hand side, who are the people who are looking for strollers? Are they soon-to-be parents? Are they parents who have one baby and they're about to have another and they need to upgrade their stroller? Is it a grandparent who wants to have maybe a smaller stroller around for when the grandkids come to visit? There's a whole universe of people, parents, grandparents, new parents, existing parents, who are in your target audience, even if they're not specifically looking for your target offer right now. Now, when we can target that intersection of people who are both looking for your offer and meet your target audience, that's where the magic happens. But it's harder and harder and harder to get to that perfect middle ground today, especially with so many more AI and automated solutions. So today we're going to focus a lot on the blue circle here, including the magic part, how to find those people in your target audience. And my qualifications to share that with you today: I'm a Google Ads coach. I'm the founder of the Inside Google Ads course, Inside Google Ads podcast, and a best-selling book called Inside Google Ads: Everything You Need to Know About Audience Targeting. And actually, Dana mentioned Talia. I have her book right here as well. Highly recommend that one too. I also used to work at Google in the large customer sales organization, which is why I call my course, podcast, and book Inside Google Ads, because I love taking that insider perspective on how things work and sharing it with you. So as we're going through today, we have an hour together on this live stream or recording if you're watching later. And if you are here with us live, please feel free to type your questions into the chat at any time. If I look right here, I can see your questions, and we are definitely going to have time to answer those for you at the midway point today and at the end. What we are definitely going to cover is, first, I want to share 4 new targeting strategies that you can use today. I'm actually going to be sharing 15 with you. So if you're newer to Google Ads, you're going to get 15 new strategies. If you're a more advanced user, 4 that I can close to guarantee are new to you. And then after we've shared the strategies, we know that strategy is one part, but the tactics and the execution can be even more important to making it work. So I'm then going to share 4 specific tips that I found really helpful to make sure that these strategies actually work for you. Let's dive in. First things first, everyone's favorite place: competitor conquesting. And conquesting is just the term we use to mean, how do you steal your competitors' customers, right? Our competitors must know something we don't. How do we reach people who are looking for them? So while there are probably infinite ways to do this, I find that it really comes down to 3 main strategies to reach your competitors. So we're going to start with kind of level 1, what everyone can do, which you're probably already doing. Then we'll share level 2, what I'll call what the intermediate practitioners are doing. And then I'll share level 3, the advanced strategy that I recommend that perhaps will be new to you today. So first things first, how do we get started with competitor conquesting? Search conquesting. You are Nike, your competitor is Adidas. You want to show Nike ads when people search for Adidas. So you put Adidas as a keyword in your search campaign. And that way, when people search for Adidas, you're eligible to show your Nike ad. It's simple to do. Anyone can do it. Contrary to popular belief, it's not illegal. You can't use a competitor's name in your ad text if it's a trademarked name. So Nike couldn't run an ad that says, "We are Adidas, come buy Adidas shoes." That would be misleading. But they can show a Nike ad when people search for Adidas. The challenge, of course, is because people aren't actually searching for you, you're likely going to have a pretty low click-through rate if you do this. And when you have a low click-through rate, that tells Google, this isn't such a relevant ad. We're going to ding you. You're going to have to pay more for the privilege of showing your less relevant ad. So you can get caught in a loop there. To help solve that problem, level 2 is to use something called a custom segment. We're going to get into these in more detail, but a custom segment in Google Ads lets you build an audience of people who have searched for a thing. So rather than trying to show an ad at the moment that someone searches for Adidas, which is not you, instead, you can create a custom segment and include searches like Adidas, Adidas running shoes, Adidas yoga, etc. And then you can show ads to people who have searched for those things as they're doing other things online. So maybe this morning they were searching for Adidas and now they're watching a YouTube video. Now you can show them an ad, knowing that it is the same person who was searching for your competitor. So that's our intermediate level conquesting, building a custom segment of your competitors' brand names. Level 3 is a strategy I came up with called non-brand conquesting. Non-brand conquesting. Of course, brand conquesting is what we've been speaking about. Let's advertise when someone searches for Adidas, or let's advertise when someone has searched for Adidas. But what if you could advertise at the exact moment that people are either seeing ads or organic results for your competitors? The way non-brand conquesting works is this. This is a screenshot of Keyword Planner in Google Ads. Even if you're not spending any money on ads at all, you too can use Keyword Planner. And what you do is instead of typing in the keywords you're interested in, or instead of typing in your own website, you type in your competitor's website. And then what Google does is it looks at your competitor's website and finds the searches that it thinks are relevant to that site. So in this example for Miffy Shop, I got a little Miffy back there. It's a little character I like. You can see the branded searches that Google knows are related to that. Miffy Keychain, Miffy UK, Miffy Rabbit. But we can also see the non-brand searches that Google associates with that site, like plush toys, soft toys, stuffed animals. You can use those as keywords. And what's great about that is you now know that your ad will be showing at the top of a page where at a bare minimum, your competitors' organic results are there. And more likely than not, if they're running ads, these would be their non-brand keywords. So nothing against search conquesting. It's a great starting point. If you've never tried non-brand conquesting before, I highly recommend you give it a try. Of course, the other benefit to this as well as potentially stealing your competitors' customers is that you probably offer plush toys and soft toys and stuffed animals. So you can have a great click-through rate, an awesome quality score, and drive great results for your business this way. So strategy number one, I challenge you to try, if you haven't before, is non-brand conquesting using Keyword Planner, a free tool. Next, we're going to move on to audience layering in search and shopping. So when we want to show a search ad or a shopping ad, something has to happen in order for you to show an ad. A user has to actually search for something, right? There has to be a search before your ads can show. And then you have the option to layer audiences on top, and there are lots of different ways to do that. So once again, we're going to start with level 1 for our beginners, move to level 2 for intermediate, and then I'll share level 3 for advanced. So how do we get started with audience layering in search and shopping? First things first is to just observe. When you add audiences to a search campaign or a shopping campaign in Google Ads, you have the option to add it on targeting or on observation. So I recommend that when you start with observation. And this means your ads are still going to show the same way they always do. But if the person searching matches one of your audiences, Google's going to make a note of that. And after some time, some weeks or maybe some months, depending on your budget, you'll be able to see data about how people who match your audiences, how their performance differs from people who don't match your audiences. So that's a great starting point to just gather data about the people who are interacting with your search or shopping ads. 3 tips I have for you for getting started with observing audiences. First, don't observe too many. Sometimes I'll audit an account and they're observing 100 audiences. I guarantee you're not going to get any usable insight from trying to analyze 100 different audiences in a single campaign. So I recommend between 5 to 10 audiences is plenty. Second, don't just observe the audiences that you think will work well. Also observe the audiences that you don't think will work well. So for example, let's say you are a home services business. You know that your target customers are going to be homeowners. Don't just observe homeowners, also observe renters. We're going to come back to why a little bit later. Observe what you may think won't work well, as well as the ones you think will work well. And then third, there's a new capability in Google Ads. There was no announcement about this, but I started noticing it in accounts about a month ago. Even if you don't add audiences on observation, Google is still going to surface audience insights to you via the Insights tab. So when you're in any campaign type, this used to be only in PMax, now it's all campaign types. So in any campaign type, on the left-hand side in Google Ads, go to Campaigns, Insights and Reports, and then Insights, scroll down, and Google will tell you which audience segments are overperforming in your campaign, even if you're not observing any audiences. So great place to glean insight. If you don't want to observe and wait for data to come in, you can see what your smart bidding is already using to optimize. All right, that is our step 1. Step 2 is to move from observation over to targeting. And the place most people start is RLSA, that's our lovely acronym, which stands for Remarketing Lists for Search Ads. And what that means is that you only want to show an ad if someone is searching for something that matches to your keywords or your shopping feed, and they're also on your remarketing list. So if someone is searching for your keywords, but they have never been to your website before, then we don't want to show them an ad. Why would we do that? Well, there's a lot of searches that may be relevant to your business, but are just not profitable for you to advertise on. Maybe they're too expensive. Like, for example, in my business, if I want to advertise to people in the United States searching for Google Ads courses, I can expect to pay about $20 per click. And that's just not viable for my business model. I don't charge thousands of dollars for my course. I'm not going to have an ROI on that. But maybe if someone has been to my website before, or they viewed my YouTube videos before, and then they're searching for Google Ads course, then that $20 CPC may be worth it to me. And so this is the rationale behind remarketing lists for search ads, RLSA, that you can take the kinds of keywords that you want to advertise on, but just generally are not profitable enough for you, and target them only if those people are already familiar with your business, because then they're much more likely to convert, and therefore it's much more likely to become profitable for you. So that is RLSA. And then third, level 3 is search and shopping exclusions. Remember I said earlier to not just observe the audiences you think will work well, but observe the ones that won't work well? What people always forget about is sometimes it's both easier and more effective to exclude the people you don't want rather than trying to figure out the perfect people you do want. And this is also brand new. Again, there was no announcement on this. I think I broke the news on this about a month ago, that you used to only be able to exclude audiences in search campaigns, but now you can also exclude audiences in shopping campaigns. So in my example before, let's say you are a plumber and you have emergency plumbing services, but you know that someone who's renting doesn't pay for the plumber. It's the homeowner who pays for the plumber. You could exclude renters. And so if someone is searching for a plumber, but Google knows they're a renter, then you just don't show an ad. But if someone is searching for a plumber and Google either knows they're a homeowner or just isn't sure, then you do show them an ad. So you can exclude audiences from search and shopping campaigns as one more tool in your arsenal. All right, we're going to move on to strategy number 3, what to do with expensive keywords, because CPCs are only rising, right? Like groceries are getting more expensive, rent is getting more expensive, and keywords are getting more expensive. And that's just going to keep on happening. So what do we do about that? Of course, you can try to improve your conversion rate to help. We talked a little about how RLSA can help. I have some other strategies for you to try today if you're in a very expensive niche. So first things first, exact match keywords, right? Exact match keywords means you want the user's search to match as close as possible to your keyword. If, like Dana, you haven't used Google Ads in some time, then you may think if you have the exact match keyword matrices that the user's search must exactly match your keyword. I'm so sorry to say that since 2022, that has not been the case.
I did know that. That is one thing I did know. Yes. I call them exact-ish. So,
exact-ish. Oh, I like that one. Exact-ish.
Thank you.
Keywords. So the user search must match the same intent or meaning as your keyword. And Google's definition of intent or meaning is going to be different than your definition of intent or meaning. For example, Google considers competitor names to be exact matches. So like if you have Adidas and someone searches in exact match and someone searches Nike, that'll be a close variant exact match.
Okay,
I know.
Crazy. That feels very weird. It also feels like Google's trying to, like, what do they call that? Shake the couch cushions?
Shake the cushions. I know.
Shake the cushions, yeah.
Whenever I hear stuff like this, I'm always like, I don't believe Google is evil. Google wants to make money, of course, but I also like there's a reason for this. And so if I take my most charitable interpretation, which I like to do with people and with Google, my most charitable interpretation for this change is that, you know what? Someone searching for Nike or for Adidas, they probably do have similar intent. In that exact moment, they're looking for one or they're looking for the other. But if you're looking for Adidas and literally all you typed is Adidas, you would probably also be satisfied by a lot of what Nike offers. So it's not what exact match means. I think the match type should have been renamed when they made this change, in my opinion. But I sort of get where Google's coming from, as frustrating
We
as it
could
can
call
be.
it like vibes searches.
Vibe searches, right? It's the similar intent,
Yeah.
meaning, or vibes. That's the Help Center update we need.
There you go.
So level 1 is, okay, you know that searches are really expensive, so you want to go to exact match to have as much control as possible to make sure you're not wasting spend on looser matches or on those hidden search terms, which when you're on exact match, you tend to not have as many. If you're on broad match, you're going to have all hidden search terms. Now, step 2, what can we do if we are in a competitive space with expensive CPCs? Our good friend custom segments come back. So maybe it's just too expensive for you to advertise if someone is searching for mattresses, but you can build a custom segment of people who have recently searched for mattresses, best mattress, mattress reviews, etc., and then show ads to those exact same people as they're minding their business, doing other things online, checking their email, watching YouTube videos, etc. Note that this custom segment capability I keep talking about, you can use this in a video campaign. You can use this in a demand gen campaign. You can also add custom segments to a display campaign, but the special feature I keep mentioning where you're showing ads to people who've searched for specific keywords, that only works if your ad is serving on a Google-owned property. So if you are serving an ad on YouTube, on Gmail, on Discover, then Google knows who that person is and Google knows what they search for and Google can do that. But if you are serving an ad on the Google Display Network, which is 3 million websites and apps across the internet, this functionality won't work the same way because you're serving ads on a whole bunch of websites that Google doesn't own. And so Google doesn't have as robust data about those users. So a little watch out if you are building a custom segment based on things people have searched for. You only want to do that in a demand gen or video campaign. And you want to make sure you are not opted into video partners and not opted into the display network. And how do we take this to the next level in an expensive industry? Well, level 3, what I would challenge you to try is what I call adjacent audiences. So coming back to our mattress example, there is an in-market audience for mattresses. So if you're in market for mattresses, if you are selling mattresses, you can tick a box, boom, reach people in market for mattresses. But you know who else has ticked that box? Every single mattress competitor. So what I like to do is think about, okay, what is something else my target customer, that blue circle from the Venn diagram, what is something else about my audience that they may be in market for right now? Or even better, what were they in market for a week ago, right before they were in market for mattresses? Maybe I want to target in market for beds and bed frames. Maybe I want to target in market for bedding. Maybe I want to target in market for moving services. Of course, targeting each of these categories, you'll then be up against those competitors who sell bed frames or who sell moving services, but you're going to be pretty unique among mattress advertisers there, and perhaps be able to get into that consideration set for someone before they're seeing ads for mattresses literally everywhere they look online. So while there are thousands of different audiences to target, there may be one that perfectly fits your industry. There may not be one that perfectly fits your industry. I encourage you to think about those adjacent audiences for alternative ideas for reaching your target customer. And I know I've been using a lot of B2C examples. I want to show my B2B advertisers some love as well. Maybe you sell accounting software, for example. So there is an in-market audience for accounting software, but your target audience maybe is also in market for CRM software, or in market for business financial services, or in market for commercial properties for rent. Those are all real audiences you can target by ticking a box on Google. So try to think of what else they may be into, or even better, what they're into a week before they're in market in your category. All right, 4th strategy for you today is what to do if you operate in a sensitive interest category. And this is very specific Google lingo. That means you're in a category with restrictions on your targeting because maybe there's regulation like in financial services or housing or employment. Or maybe you're trying to reach people based on religion, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, which, newsflash, you cannot do. Or can you? let's come back to our Venn diagram here, okay? There's a universe of people looking for your offer, and there's a universe of people who are in your target audience, X and Y. And so whenever I'm just starting to put a targeting strategy together with one of my Google Ads coaching clients, I always get us to try to do this one simple sentence. I want to sell X to Y. So I want to sell Google Ads courses to small business owners. Maybe I also want to sell Google Ads courses to aspiring and experienced Google Ads freelancers, right? You may have multiple offers. You may have multiple target audiences. For each XY pair, you can put together this sentence. So I'm going to give you a real example from a previous coaching client I had of what their sentence was. I want to sell Indian food delivery to Indian immigrants in Toronto. Now, Indian food delivery is the offer. How do we do that? Easy. Keywords, people looking for Indian food delivery. Done. Okay. But what was really different about this company was the kinds of restaurants they had were more targeted to people in Toronto who were either from India or from Indian families, like truly authentic Indian food, not the kind of Indian food that I order. And so they wanted to increase awareness among that demographic of people looking for Indian food, not someone like me who may be like, oh, I like chana masala. Like, no, Jyll, like real Indian food that I could not handle the spiciness of. Okay. And there is not just a box to tick for Indian. I mean, you can target people in India, but no, we're in Toronto and we want to reach people in the Indian diaspora. How do we do that? There's no box to tick. Well, first things first, level 1, keywords. That's what they were doing. Indian food delivery, Indian takeout, authentic Indian food. But their conversion rate was so-so, maybe partly because they were a startup, but also partly because they were reaching a lot of people who were not in their target audience. How do we fix that? So level 2 is I introduce them to custom segments. Now, if you're a more experienced practitioner, I know you're saying, but Jyll, we can't use custom segments in sensitive interest categories. Stick with me. If you're trying to do what this business is trying to do, where the business itself is not restricted, food delivery, no restrictions there. It's just the audience you're trying to reach isn't one you can tick a box on. Custom segments are your best friend. And so what I suggested here is we want to find, okay, the keyword's fine. We've talked about that enough. But you can also build a custom segment based on the kinds of websites people visit or based on the kinds of apps they use. So I thought, what are the kinds of websites that an Indian person in Toronto would use that a non-Indian person in Toronto wouldn't use? And same with apps. What are the kinds of apps that someone of Indian descent in Toronto would use that someone not of Indian descent in Toronto wouldn't use? And so I turned to my good friend Google, and I just started by looking up like, what are the top news sources and websites in India? What are the top Hindi language apps? So for example, the top Hindi language apps in India as of a few months ago were ones I had never heard of before. Meesho, PhonePe, Ludo King, Flipkart. Great. Let's add those all to a custom segment. And we know that a large portion of who we're going to reach are people of Indian descent in Toronto. Now, might we also reach people of non-Indian descent in Toronto? Absolutely. But we already have that problem with our keywords, okay? So it's just getting at people a different way, not focusing on the delivery, but focusing on reaching the right target customer. And then how do we take that to the next level? My favorite tactic, I coined the name for it. I call this non-linear targeting. And this works even if you're in a restricted industry where you can't use custom segments. But same principle, how do we reach people from India who are in Toronto? Well, what sets them apart from other Torontonians? And even if you are in a sensitive interest category, you can still use Google's audiences. So that means you can still use detailed demographics, affinity segments, in-market segments, and life events. There are no restrictions on those for any industry at all. So I have a chart next to me. You can also find some in my book, but I went through what are those segments that would likely over-index for people from India. So first I found there is an affinity audience for fans of South Asian film. Fans of South Asian film. I love my Hrithik Roshan as much as the next person, but I highly doubt that my Google profile has categorized me as a fan of South Asian film. That could be a great audience to target. What's another one? Oh, an affinity segment for cricket enthusiasts. Nothing against the sport of cricket, but in Canada, hockey is very popular, basketball is very popular, cricket, not so popular. But you know where cricket is really, really, really popular? India. That could be a great audience to target in Toronto. And another one I looked at was in market for trips to India. Because within Google, under in market for trips to India, there are in market audiences for 11 different cities within India. So if someone is in market for a trip to Mumbai or a trip to Delhi, I don't know, maybe. But if they're in market for a trip to Ahmedabad, that's a city I had never heard of before until I saw it on the in-market audiences. That is somewhere that if someone is traveling from Toronto to Ahmedabad, India, I'm going to bet they are more than likely of Indian descent. So nonlinear targeting encourages you to think, instead of, I want to target people from India, I can't do it. Instead, we go the long way around. There's a lot more to a person than just the fact that they're from India or they're of a certain religion or certain nationality or certain, you know what I mean? Or have a certain interest that there just isn't a box for. This isn't just, by the way, for sensitive interest categories. Maybe you're trying to reach HR professionals. There's no box for HR professionals. But you know what? People who work in HR, there's probably a lot more to them. Do a little bit of research to find out, what are the conferences they might attend? What are the websites they might visit? What's their equivalent of Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal? Add those to your custom segments. Take a 360-degree view to understand your target audience as people. And then you'll be able to find so many different ways that you can reach them, even if you can't reach them. So to sum up, perfect is not the goal. That perfect magic middle, it doesn't exist. We often focus so much in SEO as well, I would argue, on who's looking for your offer. Let's find the people looking for our offer and show them our offer. And I hope I've given you, I know I've given you 15 strategies today. I hope a couple of them were new to you and thought-provoking enough that you can start to think about that why side and focusing on the people who are in your target audience.
Okay, so my question is, have you tried SparkToro for this audience research before?
Funny you asked. I have played around a little in SparkToro, and I've been on the fence about purchasing this. I'm so close. I'm so bottom of funnel with them right now. I know you've spoken to me about it before, so I'm very close, but I have not tried it yet.
This is Brittany, our PPC director.
Hi, Brittany.
And she loves using SparkToro. Yeah, so we are happy SparkToro users, and we do use it regularly for audience research. And I was thinking of that because one of the things that I really like doing is, I'll use the example of Analytics Playbook. One of our top job titles is online marketing manager. And so type that into SparkToro, you get a list of the websites they visit, you get a list of the podcasts they listen to. Because I also think, there is some value in the podcast advertising, in the YouTube segments as well. And of course, for content marketing as well as advertising, it's huge to be able to use SparkToro for that audience research. So if you don't have the budget, do some Googling. I love the examples you pulled up for travel and the apps and stuff. That's super interesting. And because it's, but what about industries that are more restricted, like cannabis industries, for example? You can't advertise that at all on Google currently. Can you, or can you?
Something just changed recently. I can't remember the exact announcement. So in Canada, you may or may not, I don't know off the top of my head. But there are certain ones, that you can't advertise at all. Yeah. And then there are other industries, for example, if you are advertising financial services, there's a lot, you can't do remarketing, and you can't target by age or gender, which are considered basic demographics. For whatever reason, that's not considered an audience because of legal reasons. And then there are other things like drug rehabilitation services and stuff like that. You just can't retarget that, understandably, right? But it doesn't mean you can't reach people. You just need to, in my opinion, what I have found is that you just need to get more creative ways to find that target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Angie is desperate.
Yes.
Tell us the optimal targeting for B2B SaaS. Please help
So,
us.
what will be your friend for B2B SaaS? Well, a few things will be your
Yes.
friend. Under the detailed demographics section, you can target people based on company size and based on industry. There's only about 10 industries or so. So, if your target, because B2B SaaS, that could mean a lot of different things. So, I'll say first, Angie, which I'm sure more specific. If your target industry is there, if your target company size is there, you can use those on their own or layer them into search. Shopping would not be relevant for you. Affinity audiences, I would generally stay away from. They're much more broad. There's one for business professionals, but like 1 in 4 Americans is a business professional. So it's not going to do a ton of narrowing. Life events, probably not. There's one for like recently started a business. So like that can be good if you're trying to target new business owners. And then last but not least, for the in-market audience section, there's a category for business services. And that's probably where you'll spend the most time. That's where you find like people in market for CRM software, people in market for SEO and SEM services, people in market for payroll, and on and on and on. So even if you don't find your perfect audience there, think like which of these products or services would your target customer also be in, Angie? And then you can use that for targeting. And I would definitely test the demand gen campaign format in Google Ads if you haven't before. Some really great case studies I've seen there of how that can work for lead generation and for B2B. I shared that on an episode of my Inside Google Ads podcast. I want to say it was in May or June 2025. It's called Demand Gen for Lead Gen on my podcast. And I share 3 case studies there of how to use it for B2B and lead generation.
Great. Okay. Rita also would love some examples for B2B SaaS audiences. So she does do extensive competitor targeting, but she is finding difficulty with affinity and in-market options, and she uses custom segments.
Glad to see you using custom segments. They're so underutilized, and we're going to be talking about them even more in the second half. So I'll say same thing to you. Affinity, probably not going to be as useful. Oh, Rita says here on the side, you answer my question as well. Go into those in-market. Another weird one is there's a subcategory that's called like business and financial products. It has a different name and there's only 4 things underneath it and it's separate from business services. One of them is like restaurant equipment. I don't know. You could just luck out and have one in there. So check there. I just like to expand. If you've never gone through all the audiences in Google Ads and just expanded every one to browse through them all, I encourage you to do it. And my favorite place to do that is when I'm in the Google Ads interface. On the far left, you go to Tools, Shared Library, Audience Manager, and then choose Audiences along the top and go as if you're like building a new audience, but then you'll just have all the options available to you. And so I'll open it up, I'll scroll through. That's how I found cricket enthusiasts. Like it never would have occurred to me to look for that, but I was researching for this client and I was like, okay, let's see every single affinity segment. And like, there it was, you know? So, and they change frequently as well. Another example that I've given before is there was a client I work with who sells personalized cross necklaces. So we were trying to reach people who are Christian. Again, there's no box tick for Christian. And one of the things I found is there's an affinity segment for homeschooling parents. And people who choose to homeschool their children are overwhelmingly Christian. And so that was another one that we tested with that client before.
That's so interesting. You know, I also wonder too, like, how does Google come up with these category names? And when they change them, do they let people know, or you just find it randomly when you go in there and you're like, oh,
they don't. Yeah, they don't announce this stuff at all. You just sort of find it when you go. I mean, Google does make a lot of announcements. And again, in Google's defense, I'm not trying to be an apologist for Google, but like if they were to announce every single change, they'd be making announcements every day and we would not pay attention anymore. But these things do change quite frequently. And how do they decide? This is not insider information. This is an assumption I'm making. I assume it's just based on like large advertiser needs.
So
right? Like if large advertisers want stuff, they spend millions, then there's going to be, and of course there's no legal or ethical restrictions on it. You know, that's where they would cut. Because you'll see some really random ones in there. Like, why did that get its own? Probably because there's a really large advertiser somewhere. But again, that's just me making an assumption.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because the whole reason why we have key events versus conversions in GA4 is because some large advertiser said, I don't like that these are called the same thing, rename it. And so all of GA4 changed because some large advertisers were mad about names. And if people don't know this too, this is something important to know about GA4. GA4 is under the Google Ads team. So a lot of the decisions that are made about GA4 and how it works, and like the fact that the advertising section is where the multi-touch attribution stuff lives, which makes zero sense to me. Like, I could do a whole webinar about how annoyed I am about that. Like, I appreciate that they make decisions and blah blah blah, and I'm not on the team, I don't know, but come on. So if you also haven't exercised, if you're using GA4, you have not accessed the advertising section, just make a Google Ads account. Don't put any money in it. Attach it to your GA4, and then you can see multi-touch advertising. But yeah, the whole fact that they renamed this whole major feature of GA4 based on large advertisers shows you the pull that the companies that spend millions and millions with Google get every single year.
They do. They get access. They get to meet the product managers. They get to go to the Googleplex. Like when I worked at Google, I would go to the Googleplex in Mountain View, and we'd entertain our Canadian customers there because that's part of the game. Which,
Well,
by the
like,
way, does not mean that
Googleplex is like very exciting for people, right? Like, oh,
very
be fancy. Yep.
Yes, I still have my yoga mat from a certain company with Google branding on it. That was one of my, things we gave away at the Googleplex.
Yep, totally. Yeah, and I think, and if you think about other tools like, Microsoft, for example, Microsoft Bing is not their major driver of revenue, right? Like, they make Windows. That's
And Xbox.
Xbox. Yeah, that's where they make their money. Bing is like a fun little side project. So they're a software company that does search for funsies. And so Google is entirely driven through Google Ads. It is the thing that keeps the lights on. So that's why so many decisions that they make are totally driven by Google Ads. But yeah, I think that that's a really interesting way to look at that. It's just like some advertiser asked for something weird, and now we see something weird. So Brittany also has a question. Do you create remarketing audiences in GA4 or Google Ads, or both? What's your go-to?
Whatever is easiest for you to do is my first answer always. So if you set up the Google tag on your site and set up the remarketing list, like generally that will be, well, historically, I would say generally that would be more accurate than GA4, but GA4 is easier to implement. However, I no longer find creating audiences in GA4 easy. And because of things like consent mode, I no longer find that the tag will be, the most comprehensive way to do it. So whatever floats your boat, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I will say, though, that for small businesses, if you have not tried the Google engaged audience, this is something I also keep talking about because Google never announced it, but it's a new kind of audience that you have in Google Ads. It's remarketing. Every Google Ads account automatically gets one. And Google automatically populates it for you with people who have clicked to go to your website from organic and paid Google results. So if someone clicks to your website from Google search, organic, they're added to this list. From your Google Maps listing, they're added to this list, as well as people who click on any of your paid ads. And so the reason I say I recommend this for all small businesses is because you don't need GA4 or a Google tag or anything. Rather than waiting until the person leaves Google, comes to your website, then we tag them or something and send the info back to Google. Instead, it's like they're on Google. Google sees that they click to go to your site and captures them right there. And there's a study I did a couple of months ago just across a dozen or so accounts I have access to. And I found that the Google engaged audience tends to be a similar size to the GA4 audience that people have, and that the Google Ads tag-based audience tends to be smaller. So your results may vary, but the Google engaged audience is a great remarketing audience to try. And with GA4 versus Google Ads, I don't care. As long as you got some kind of website-based remarketing, that's good enough for me.
And please, for the love of God, create an audience of people who have already converted so you can remove them from your please buy from me again, unless you sell something that people buy in the regular. But like if you sell houses, it's not something people are going to need all that often. Please have a page somewhere in your website that people have to visit after they've purchased from you, right? And just use that as your exclusion. Like, just please do that because you're wasting money on people who've already converted.
See, audience exclusions can be just as important as who you target. All right, we're going to zip through some of our tips to make these strategies work. And we've already covered some of them through our discussion here today. So I shared 4, well, actually 15 new audience targeting strategies for you to try. And now I'm going to share just 4 tips to help make them as effective as possible in your Google Ads account. So first things first is know your audiences. If this is the first you have ever heard about Google Ads audience targeting, you might like to change that. It's really hard to use something when you don't even know what your options are. So I mentioned earlier how to go to Audience Manager and browse. This slide is sort of my like one-stop just reminder of like, what are all the different audiences available in Google Ads? If you have registered for this webinar with Analytics Playbook, the artist formerly known as Kickpoint Playbook, then you will receive a PDF from me. It is my audience compatibility cheat sheet that is adapted from my book and made for my Inside Google Ads course members. So that will have all your audience options and what campaign types they are compatible with. Otherwise, you could take a screenshot right now, and this is just my go-to list. Okay, which detailed demographic, which affinity might work, which custom segments might work, etc. So know your audiences so that you can use your audiences. And of course, if you want to go into greater detail about any of them, my book, Inside Google Ads, would be a great resource. Tip number 2 is to turn content targeting into audience targeting. What do I mean by that? Well, content targeting is showing ads in a certain place. And there are 3 places in Google Ads that we can show ads. You can show ads on certain keywords, on websites or apps or YouTube channels that have to do with certain topics, or on specific website placements, specific app placements, or specific YouTube placements. So you're choosing to show your ad alongside a piece of content. Audience targeting is showing ads to a certain kind of person where you don't actually care what it is they're doing right now. You care more about who they are. And custom segments, which I've talked about so much today, are the way that you turn content targeting into audience targeting. And I had this epiphany about a year ago, and I was working on my book, and pardon me, I think it's so brilliant, which is why I had to share this with you today. So custom segments are built to turn content targeting into audience targeting. Why? Well, you have a list of keywords, that's content targeting. You can then use those as search terms to build a custom segment of people who have searched for those keywords. But it doesn't stop there. There are certain topics where you want to place your ads. Well, you can put those in a custom segment as interests and show ads to people who are interested in certain topics. And then placements, what do we do with that? Well, you can build a custom segment of people who visit certain websites or apps. And instead of showing ads on that website or in that app, you show ads to people who visit websites like that or apps like that as they're doing other things online. So wherever you have content targeting, which by the way is like dying in Google Ads, you can't really do content targeting many places anymore. You can turn content targeting into audience targeting using custom segments and use it across demand gen, display, video, performance max audience signals if you so choose. Really powerful way to get started with audiences is to turn your content targeting that's working for you into audience targeting with a custom segment. My third tip for you to get more comfortable with this stuff is just to spy on targeting 24/7. And my favorite place to do that is the YouTube homepage. It's the perfect place to go ad hunting. Why is that? Because you'll see all the ads there. On the YouTube homepage, you'll see image ads and video ads. The top 3 here are image ads, where if you click on them, it will take you to the website. The bottom 3 are video ads, where you can see there's an option to watch the video now. I also like this because ads can be placed on the YouTube homepage via a demand gen campaign, a video campaign, a display campaign, or a performance max campaign. Ads can be placed on the YouTube homepage via content targeting or via audience targeting. So just a great place to get a real survey of ads in Google Ads and a great place for you to test your skills. So whenever you see an ad anywhere on Google, you click those little 3 dots and then a screen like this comes up and it'll tell you why you're seeing this ad. You can see the kinds of audience targeting they're using. And so a really great exercise that I like to do because I'm a totally normal person is I always click the 3 dots And I play a little game first. I try to guess, why did I get targeted with this ad? And then I see if I'm right or not. So in this example here, we can see in the top left, the ad for, I think it's from Rogers, but like Crave and the Sports Network, they're using demographics and custom segments and lookalikes, the most specific targeting, which is funny because the ad is a hockey player and I have zero demonstrated interest ever towards anything to do with sports, but fun.
Can I just assume that the demographic is Canadian? Like, is that just what they're right?
Demographics in Google Ads means age, gender, parental status, and or household income. It's like 4 very specific things. Location targeting would be, in Canada or something. Yeah. And then in the bottom right here, I'm like, whoever placed that ad for motion is a meta ads practitioner, because they included no targeting, and only meta ads practitioners do that. So just really fun. And then I look like, which of these is actually most relevant to me? And then, even targeting aside, like, these images all suck, in my opinion. None of these entices me to click, even if the targeting were perfect. So this is just a really great way that in your day-to-day life, you can test out your skills and see the kinds of targeting real advertisers are using, and improve your own skills and get ideas. And then my last tip for you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dana.
No, I was going to say, for my students in my analytics course, I also make them do this, and it's always fun for them to be like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. Even through this little thing, again, because I'm a totally normal human, I have a Google Doc I keep of every single piece of language I see here, and I've like discovered different things that I'm like, what? That's an option? You can do this with search ads, shopping ads, but I just find the YouTube homepage is a great place to do it. And then last but not least, something I call creative-led targeting, which I totally did steal from meta ads practitioners, because what they do is they say broad targeting, your creative is your targeting. And while you don't need to take it to that extreme on Google, especially with automated campaign types like Performance Max, or if you're using optimized targeting, your creative is your targeting. Now, what do we mean when we say that? Not literally your creative is your targeting. What we mean is that what the end user sees is just the ad, and they either engage with it or don't. And when you're using automated targeting, which you have to do in PMax, or what lookalikes might be, or what optimized targeting would have you do, is it'll just look for, people who engage with this ad, let's find more people like them. And people who didn't engage with this ad, let's find less people like them. So it's really, your creative itself can be more influential than the targeting you choose. Great targeting with crappy creative will not work. It's a stronger signal than any audience signal. And I just want to show you an example of real ads I saw in the wild from a brand called Reformation. Okay, so first I'm going to show you a search ad like no search ad you have ever seen before. Are you ready? Okay.
Okay, that's hilarious.
Hilarious. This is an ad for a shirt. How many thousands and jillions of advertisers are there just trying to, new arrivals, shop now, shirts, yay. They have some sexy things in the headline to grab attention, which I'm not going to say out loud. And then in the description, it says, we're Reformation and we make killer tops that don't kill the environment. That was a human copywriter, like AI could never, okay? So they're able to get this ad copy there that grabs attention, killer tops that don't kill the environment. You're learning more about the brand already. You bet I want to shop now. And this was not a one-off. I'm going to show you more examples. This next one, this is actually the first ad I ever saw from this brand, which I thought was so brilliant. I went to the Google Ads Transparency Center to look at all their ads. And it says, Reformation, being naked is the #1 most sustainable option. We're number 2. Think about that. We're number 2. What do you mean? Oh, and so again, they've told me it's sexy. They've told me it's sustainable. And they've told me it's irreverent. All through one description line in one ad. Really brilliant work. Here's another piece. Cute, sustainable shoes, 100% recyclable. Not that you'll want to get rid of these anytime soon. Again and again, you've never been to this website, or maybe you have, but me at this point, never been to their website, don't know what the clothes look like. Already, I know exactly what this brand is about. I'm going to show you more. Sale, sale, sale. Compliments, a common side effect of wearing ref. right? Instead of just 50% off, get 50% off now, shop our sale now. Compliments, a common side effect. Here is a bunch of shirts. This would be feed-based, okay? And instead of just saying shop shirts, if you're into cute tops, ...
Mm-hmm.
Reformation, sustainably made dresses for parties, brunch, meeting the parents, or whatever. Reformation skirts, all your other skirts will be jealous. So I already love a brand that I've never even shopped before based on their ads. Okay, so this is the standard you should all be setting for yourself, even you B2B SaaS folks, okay? Your creative is a stronger signal than any audience signal could ever be. So to succeed with Google Ads targeting in 2025 and beyond, the 4 overarching strategies we discussed were non-brand conquesting to go after your competitors, search exclusions rather than just search targeting, adjacent audiences when you're in a expensive niche, and non-linear targeting when you're in a sensitive interest category. And then I left with 4 tips to help those work better. First, know your audiences before you can use your audiences. Turn content targeting into audience targeting with custom segments. Spy on targeting to sharpen your skills using the YouTube homepage or wherever you prefer. And then let your creative lead your targeting. Don't outsource your thinking to AI. We can all tell. If you would like to learn more with me after today, you can go to jyll.ca/KPP for Kickpoint Playbook, JYLL.ca. You can sign up for my free Google Ads newsletter where I drop a real Google Ads case study every other week. You can subscribe to my weekly podcast, Inside Google Ads, book a call with me, etc. So I will see you there, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I love those ads so much. The comments are people, like, show them to our content guys, killing it. Awesome ad copy. I love that ad copy so much. We're all going to go check out Reformation now. And they'll be like, why are there so many more people in our remarketing audiences? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious. I'd be so curious if you ever do find out if that is in-house or that is agency. To me, that feels in-house because it feels like an agency wouldn't be brave enough to...
I agree. It feels in-house.
If it is an agency, it would be an advertising agency because, they love those big, like, ad agency things. But I don't know if they would pitch that. And even if they did, I don't know if it would probably get shot down internally. They'd be like, client will never go for this. You know what I mean? So that feels like it has to be an in-house decision.
I agree. It feels like it. So if anyone has any intel on the Reformation team, send this to them. Big fan of their ads, and we'll find out.
Yeah. Mo says they'd fire the agency who dares try that kind of copy.
Probably.
Right? Well, I mean... no, but I think what would happen is if somebody suggested that internally, they would be like, no, we can't possibly share that with the client, our morals. So that's
someone just went and did it.
Somebody went and did it, which good
and
for
it
them.
Grabbed attention, right? I was scrolling through and it made me stop the scroll. Yeah.
Beautiful ads. Love that. Okay. All right. So thank you again for joining us. Absolutely. You will get an email with the recording and with Jill's targeting PDF, which is so good. So before you take off today, though, I just want to say our next webinar is going to be October 21st with absolute brilliant AI educator, Brittany Muller. We will be having a discussion instead of a presentation, and she is going to talk to me about start small and get specific, what marketers get wrong about AI. There's a little bit of a spoiler alert there in the title on what marketers are getting wrong about AI, but it's going to be a fantastic conversation. I'm really looking forward to talking to Brittany about that. And again, make sure to watch your email for a special discount on Analytics Playbook courses, along with the replay of the webinar, along with Jill's targeting guide. And if you don't see that email, or if you didn't register and you're just randomly watching this, message me on LinkedIn and I can help you out. And we will see you soon.